everyone, my name is MJ, and you are at my channel called Reading This Life. My channel is where we talk fiction, friends, and fun. This video is a part of a series that I've been doing where I interview fellow BookTube creators, ask them some questions, and then open up the conversation with the audience. I find that these videos can be helpful to anyone that is thinking of starting a channel, has a channel, or interested in what happens in BookTube. So I hope you enjoy this conversation that I was able to have with Mike from Mike's Book Reviews. We haven't really interacted much in the past, but we had an awesome time, and I hope you enjoy it. Hi, Mike.
Howdy. Hi, how are you? Just living my best life. How about you?
Wonderful. Thanks so much again for doing this. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Thanks so much for asking. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So it's interesting because BookTube, you think it's just your small little neighborhood corner, but it's actually pretty massive. And I don't know if a lot of my subscribers and my community knows about your channel. I'm sure they do, but let's just go through as if nobody knows who you are. So can you tell us like your origin story of your channel?
Oh, sure. I was actually a podcaster before this happened. I didn't even know. I always liked to read, did a podcast, just, movies, music, TV, things like that. Did sports before that. I did basically podcasted for about 10 years before I got into this. And one thing that my co-host wasn't really big into was reading. So I just said, you know what, I got to try to find an outlet to find something to do to talk about all the stuff that I'm reading, since you're not really into it besides like comic books. And so I just made a video on there saying, hey, I'm going to, because I host all the stuff on YouTube Live so I can podcast it easier. But I just said, hey, this is a video just saying I'm going to make this thing called, Mike's Book Reviews. Just once in a while, if I want to talk about a book or something. It was something I made off the cuff. That's why the name isn't incredibly original.
Yeah, but it works.
And basically, it was an accident. I never really thought that this was like a thing. I was reading Wheel of Time for the first time. And I said, this is a long series. At the time, I'd only planned to read like a couple at a time to stay ahead of the television show. That was my original plan. And so I just made what I was calling like video diary so I could go back to and refer to. And I just said, you know what? I'm afraid my computer will crash or something. I'll lose them. So I'll just go ahead and upload them to the YouTube channel. Just have a place to store them, really.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm like, whoa, I never get 1,000 views on YouTube. What's going on? And then I'm reading the comments and stuff. And people are like, you should really check out this channel and this channel. I'm like, what are you guys talking? What is BookTube? Never even heard of it. And then I was like, oh my God, these are my people.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, let me see if this was, is this Wheel of Time or is this me? Am I pretty good at this? And so I started making other series and stuff, and it just kind of took off from there. So, into year number 5 of doing this now. And
yeah,
it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a growing experience.
That's awesome. So when you first started, when you started seeing your channel take off and you started recognizing this was a thing, did you have like a goal or a vision or anything like that in mind?
Oh yeah. With me, something that I was really, especially after talking about, movies and TV and stuff, is I wanted to create a positive community. I felt like the internet had really fallen into agree with me or die, and I did not had, we're Gen Xers. We're not like that. We're like, hey, hey, I feel differently. And we move on. We never really just wanted to like end friendships and stuff because you disagree about a movie, So I want to make it okay to disagree. Let's drop in the comments, talk about it. These are my opinions. This isn't me saying I would do it better. I want to know what you guys think about it. Let's talk about it down below. So that was always something I wanted to do, and also stay on brand. That's a real big one. I was going through business school when I started this channel. And by the way, guys, it's never too late to go back. And I just was real big about in marketing about, stay on brand. If you're making a channel to talk about books, talk about books. No one cares what you think about this socio-political movement going on over here. Talk about the books. And that's what I always said I want to do. I'll talk about my personal life, what I'm doing with my kids and stuff like that. But whenever it gets to anything that's like super, super divisive, I'm like, I'm going to avoid that. And I'm just going to just stay on brand, talk about books. And I think that's what's helped make it stay a positive community.
Okay. So when you first started your channel, what type of obstacles or what kind of roadblocks did you run into, whether it be tech or scheduling or ideas or anything like that?
No, actually, I think I have more ideas than I have time actually to do it. I have no problem coming up with ideas. The biggest thing for me was I had only worked in podcasting, so it didn't matter what your face looked like. For me, the biggest problem was video lighting. I mean, I still struggle with lighting, as you can see right now with the rings under my eyes. I can't master the lighting when I'm in front of my computer.
Mhm.
Something I'm still struggling with in year number 5. And everybody's like, "Oh, just get a ring light." No, it doesn't help. But anyway, I think it's just because I have this. It's not really a recording space. This is just my office, and
Yeah.
it's hard to place lighting on both sides of you. When my desk is in the corner, so
Mhm.
that's why over there I'm able to do it just fine. That's what I do most of my videos on. But when I'm at my computer, it's a struggle. But I mean, I was still using like a webcam and stuff when I started this, and
Yeah.
I had no idea about video stuff. My audio was perfect, because I've been podcasting forever, and
Yeah.
that was great. But oh, it was bad when I first started. I mean, it looked like I was in a cave sometimes. I was just using natural lighting or my overhead light, and
Uh-huh.
like the audio wasn't matching my lips and stuff. So yeah, it was a process, and I've been tempted many times to take those videos down just because I don't want that to be the first impression someone has. But so
Yeah.
many people still watch those old Wheel of Time videos and comment on them and tell me how much they appreciate them. I'll never do that. But yeah, that was a real struggle. And I see these people who start new channels now and they've got like perfect lighting, a perfect audio. I'm like, how? Teach me,
Mhm.
please.
Right, right. So I always ask this to all the people I interview. Do you ever go back and watch your old videos?
I don't usually watch a lot of my own videos just because I'm like,
No,
oh
your
God.
old ones.
I mean, if people talk about them a lot, I'll go back and see what they were talking about. Like, I'll get a lot of comments of, 4 minutes, 20 seconds. I can't believe you said this. Ha ha. And I'll go back to see what they say. And then I'll just listen to the whole thing. I'll be like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of my opinions will still be the same, but I'll still be like, I mean, like when I first started, I have like a format when I review a book now. I had nothing then. I literally just turned the camera on and said, let's find out what I'm going to talk about, which is a
Right.
blessing and a curse
Right.
because I do tend to ramble.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's rough when you go back and watch some of those old ones, but it's always be getting better. Something I always like try to practice.
Absolutely, absolutely. Once in a while, I'll go back and dip back into the catalog and just see like where I was a year ago from today. And it's pretty amazing to see the growth that we make
Right.
as creators, even though you may not think that you're making a growth,
Sure.
but it's actually happening.
Yeah. Don't
So
be afraid to try new things.
no, definitely. So, talking about your channel, sustaining your channel, growing your channel, what is the best piece of advice that you ever learned from another booktuber?
I mean, the thing is, I get mostly questions from smaller booktubers because they claim that my channel like grew stupid fast. And the thing was,
Mhm.
like, my channel like blew up during lockdown, so people
Yeah.
were home and stuff
Mhm.
like that. I think early on, Daniel Green told me that he thought that I should probably put my live streams to private or just delete them overall because if you're trying to conquer the algorithm, those long videos that hardly anyone watches or watches after the first like 24 hours will bring
Mhm.
your numbers down. I think that was probably something that helped me a lot, and that's why I created the podcast for the channel, which I put those long conversations on podcast format. People still want to hear them.
Yeah.
So I need to start getting back to that because I have had a lot of author interviews lately that have been 2-3 hours, and probably need to start putting those back on there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a great piece of advice.
Mm.
What advice would you give to someone that is out there thinking about starting a channel, having that conversation with themselves as to whether they should do it or not?
When I get asked, what advice would you give? What was your success? I don't think I've got it figured out, but I'll tell you what
Mhm.
worked for me is the 3 B's. The 3 B's are be yourself, be consistent, be honest.
Mhm.
Be yourself. Don't try to be a carbon copy of someone else's channel because viewers are going to see it a mile away and they're
Mhm.
not going to take you seriously. Like if you just make a channel and be like, I'm going to act exactly in personality like this person.
Yeah.
Be yourself.
Right.
Create your own thing. Be consistent. If you say, I understand not everybody can put out 4 or 5 videos a week. I get that. But if you tell your audience, I'm going to put out two videos per week, put out 2 videos per week.
Right.
Everybody understands real life gets in the way sometimes, but try to be consistent with it because people are you just disappear for like a month.
Yeah.
You're going to disappear from their feed and they're never going to see you again. And then be honest.
Mhm.
I see a lot of people that are afraid to say what they really think. Like, for example, about a book, they're afraid to say because they know that it's really popular. Your
Yeah.
viewers are going to respect you more for being honest with them. They can tell if
Mhm.
you're bullshitting them, really, I think.
Definitely.
So I always say that, but in the end, just go for it. That first video is the hardest. No one has a perfect video that gets 1 million views on
Mhm.
number one, and don't get discouraged if you don't have overnight success because
Yeah.
I was doing this 4 years before it took off a little bit for me. I wasn't focused on just the books. I'm saying like I podcasted for a decade, never had anything like that. So
Yeah.
it just if you're consistent, and you do those things, I think you'll take off. Just be patient with it.
Awesome. Let's talk about friendships and community. the community aspect of BookTube and the friendships that we make on BookTube. Give us your thoughts on that.
Oh, I love it. I mean, it's pretty cutthroat when you talk about sports. The
Yes.
people are always trying to basically tell you why you're wrong.
Uh-huh.
And fandom is what it is. So we talk about a superhero movie or something, and you're just going to get negative reactions either way. But with this, it blew me away when I first started doing how positive it was. I told my wife, I was like, I'm getting like so many comments and they're like 99% positive. What that's about? What is that about? And she said, well, stupid people don't read. And I thought that was funny. But with that, it's been a delight. All the content creators that I've worked with, almost 100% have been amazing. We all just love to read and stuff. We love to talk about it.
Yeah.
For me, the constant watchers make it all worth it. You'll see the people who comment on every single one of your videos, or will email you and tell you how, I wasn't reading at all, and then I found your channel, and now I've read like 50 books this year. So like that's great. So again, it's a mostly positive community because everybody just loves to read. Sure, you'll have some people who say something nasty. I mean, that's just the internet. You learn to roll with that. But no, I love it. I've made some incredible friendships. I see some of them in the comments right now.
Yeah.
Since I've been doing this, Philip is like my brother from another mother. I mean,
Nice.
I've made some amazing friendships with people I'll probably never meet in real life. I've made amazing friendships doing this, and I'm forever going to be thankful for that. Definitely.
That's awesome. Love that. Let's go back to tech. When you first started your channel, you said you used a video cam?
Yeah, I had a Logitech webcam because I was like, look, I'm not going to. At the time, my company that I'd worked for 12 years got acquired, and that was when I decided to go back to school. My wife was a teacher. She was staying home with the kids, and so she went back to school to teach. And I was going to be taking business school classes online with the kids here. And I said, I need some adult conversation. So that's when I started doing this. And I thought, okay, well, we're one income. I'm not going to sink a bunch of money into a new camera right now, especially since I don't know if this is like a thing. And when it started getting bigger and bigger, I was like, I probably need to upgrade the camera. And I was at 10,000 subs before I moved on from the webcam. But yeah, it was just a Logitech webcam, and your face has like no definition, which sometimes is better, when you got a face like this. But it's one of those you go back to, and it's really, really rough to look at for sure. But yeah, I wish I'd upgraded that sooner for sure.
Yeah. What do you use now?
Canon MS-50.
Okay.
Which I'm still learning how to use, 4 years later.
All right, let's talk about books. So what are your favorite genres to read?
Sci-fi, fantasy, horror. I'll really stick to those. The only nonfiction I do is I love rock autobiographies and stuff like that. I love hearing that lifestyle. I'll read those through really, really quick. Oh, I thought we lost you for a second.
No,
but
you're
really, I stick to those three. People all the time. Would you ever read this? I'll slip out of my comfort zone once in a while. Maybe read like a crime or thriller or something like that. I love Blake Crouch. He's not exactly any of those genres. But really, I'm always going to go back to the more fantasy than sci-fi. Horror, I wish I did read more of. I mean, Stephen King's my favorite author, so I always want to say that I read a lot of horror. But I look at it and I'm like, I haven't read a ton of horror authors, and I probably should expand that. And that's why every October, I make it a point on the channel where I read nothing but different horror authors that aren't Stephen King, to try to expand my horizon on that. But yeah, my heart's always going to be in fantasy for sure.
Nice. And what are you reading right now?
Oh, well, I was lucky enough to get a review copy of the new Pierce Brown book directly from Pierce Brown, that's got to be so frustrating. I think I'm learning about this is as frustrated as reviewers get about getting review copies, authors are even more frustrated with it. So he had to send me one of his personal ones from his home address to get me a review copy of this because his publisher can't get it figured out. But it's good. I'm about 80 pages in already. I read the first 80 pages last night. So
nice.
Exciting.
Nice.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite series going right now, without a doubt.
Sweet. And what type of hobbies do you have outside of BookTube and reading?
I do I always say I have this rule of I have 3 hobbies: reading, gaming, and TV. And I only have enough time to do 2 of those. Right now it's gaming because, there's a new Zelda game that's out. We just bought a PlayStation 5 and everybody in the house loves gaming. So it's like a tug of war who gets to play next. I also love karaoke and just being a dad.
Nice.
I have a lot of fun being a dad. I started a little later than I probably should have. Every time I go up the steps, I'm like, what was I thinking? Having kids this late in life. But no, it's one of those things where parents will complain about our kids or whatever, but it's like the rewards far outweigh anything negative on it. But there are days where like, what was I thinking? But
Mhm.
it's really, really great. It is. And my oldest just turned 11 and we bought him his first iPhone, and that's scary. That's
Yeah,
very, very scary. But last night he was like texting me memes, and I was like, okay, this is great. This is everything.
nice.
So yeah,
Good.
kid time is very important.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so do you have anything? Do you have any events going on in your channel? Is there anything you want to talk about? Anything
Uh,
happening?
Not particularly. I don't have very many events. I'll occasionally do like read-alongs or things like that.
Okay.
Really just I put out like 4 videos a week about all kinds of things. So, if you want consistent content, I think that's a place to find it. But I'll invite everybody to join the Discord if you haven't, because I think I created the Discord to basically get away from the toxicity of Twitter.
Yeah.
And it's like an amazingly positive community. Got like 8,000 users there, which I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's just like too many. But, you can kind of customize it to be what you want it to be. And
Hmm.
I always encourage people to hop on there, because I feel like the bigger the channel gets, the harder it is for me to keep up with comments and socials as
Yeah.
much, because I'll get someone who drops me a message like, "Oh, I messaged you on Instagram 4 months ago and you never replied. You hate your audience," and so I'm like, "You have no idea how much stuff goes to my filter, and I never ever see." But I tell them, drop on the Discord. I'm on there constantly trying to make sure I maintain communication with my patrons and with my constant watchers and stuff, and just anybody who wants to talk about books. That's the best way, probably. If you want to talk directly to me, that's probably the best way to do it. So we'd love to have you.
Awesome. Wonderful. All right. So we're going to open it up to the community now, to everybody in the chat. So if you have a question for Mike, ask away.
Don't
We'll
be
talk about
scared.
it.
Don't be
Yeah.
scared. Yeah.
Let me see. We have, this is Gareth. Gareth said he has a question. Has your buying habits changed a lot since reviewing books?
Yes and no. I mean, I think that there's a ton of things I probably never would have tried. Like I'm reading Realm of the Elvelings right now, Robert Hobb. I probably that had been on my bucket list for a while, but I don't know if I ever would have actually finally did it if
Mhm.
not for having a YouTube channel, because you get so many, like I get people that get mad at me and say, "Hey, Mike, you're blowing up my TBR. Or you're making my shopping list. You're making my spouse want to divorce me because I'm spending so much money on books." You guys do the same to me. You give me so many great recommendations that,
Mhm.
of course, I'm going and buying stuff. But I also have an amazing audience that buys me a lot of stuff. I have
Yeah.
authors and publishers that send me a lot of stuff. So it's
Right.
the point now I'm like, well, I'm buying like collector stuff that I really, really want. But you guys have been such a blessing that I haven't had to spend a ton
Mhm.
on a lot of the stuff that you guys want me to read, and
Yeah.
I'm thankful for that. I can't
Right.
say thank you enough for that.
Do you speaking about books, do you like, I have a thing for vintage books.
Oh,
Anything
sure.
from like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, that's where I want to shop. That's what I want to get. The good gems that people just don't care about anymore.
Mhm.
So, do you have any type of like buying habits like that?
Not really. I love a leather bound. I love hardcovers. Some of those can be hard to track down or get a hold of.
Mhm.
But I think the oldest book I have is like it's not a third printing or third edition. It's the word I'm looking for. It's not the third printing, it's a third edition, I
Uh-huh.
guess, printing of Gone with the Wind. That's probably the
Okay.
oldest book I have, and I'm afraid to touch it because I'm afraid it'll fall apart.
Yeah.
So that's like my collector's one, and I have like an actual one that I read out of when I want to read it. We're gonna be reading that in July on the channel. It's gonna be fun. But not really. Me more. It's more like I like to help some smaller authors on Kickstarter
Mhm.
get some of those collecting editions. But just like everyone else, I'm a sucker for, hey, this series is complete and it's all matching. I've got to get it now. So it looks really, really good on my shelf. If the spines all match, which is rare, believe
Mhm.
it or not. But yeah, I have those little book collecting quirks like everyone else. I don't have any more room in my office and I keep
Yeah.
buying them. So yeah, I clearly have issues, but not very much of the vintage stuff. Because I would just be too afraid to touch it. I'd be afraid I'd
Yeah.
ruin it.
Are you more physical? Are you
Oh, yeah.
Are you equal?
I mean, I've gotten really big on reading on my Kindle
Mhm.
for several reasons. A lot of the books I read are this thick,
Mhm.
and when you're reading those in bed, I'm the type of I don't know what kind of reader you are, but if I read in bed, I'm the type where like I can't stop in the middle of a chapter. I got to finish the chapter,
Yeah.
right? And so I'll be guilty of falling asleep while I'm reading it. The book will hit me in the face, and when you do
Yes.
that a couple times with a Stephen King book, it's not very much fun. I think I did that with Brandon Sanderson's Oathbringer once, and I left a mark on my forehead. And I was like, all right, I think it's time to move to reading Kindle in bed. So it's unfortunate that I'm like, okay, well now I'm buying physical and digital.
Yeah.
but I do still prefer to read physical. Right here at my desk, I like to read a hardcover because I got the best reading light right here and stuff. I like to do that, but I really fell into liking the Kindle in bed for that reason. And also, my wife is always like, "Turn your lamp out," and I'm like, "Well, I can't
Mhm.
read without the lamp on."
Yeah.
And with the Kindle being backlit, I can read in the complete dark, and it doesn't bother her. So it's worked out a lot. I know
Good.
purists are still very much about like, "Oh, no digital books," but it.
Yeah.
And also traveling.
Yeah.
It's great traveling because I can
Mhm.
take my whole library with
Series.
me.
Yeah.
It's
You can
really, really
take
great.
everything with you.
Mhm.
Nice. All right. Philip has a question for you.
Oh, boy.
Since you've been picking up more self-published books and helping out self-published authors, what is your sense of the future for self-published fantasy?
I have been saying I feel like we're reaching like an iron age with self-pub because I know for a long time a lot of self-pub was kind of treated as, oh, well, you're just not good enough to get signed by a label.
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of people still have that stigma attached, but I feel like BookTube has really opened a lot of people's eyes that there's a lot
Mhm.
of quality stuff out there.
Yes.
And the more that I'm learning,
Mhm.
talking to somebody, so like I talked to Ryan Cahill, he does the Bound the Broken for like 3 hours the other night. He gave me so much inside info about what goes on in the publishing community that I'm like, wow, I think really doing it yourself seems like a really great idea. When I talked to Michael J. Sullivan, I asked him, I was like, hey, did it take a lot of courage to walk away from Orbit and do this on your own? He's like, no, I actually make money now. So I feel like there's so much great stuff out there, and my eyes have been opened. I read Philip's book, last month. It was really great, guys. His second book comes out soon. Get it? And I'm reading Ryan Cahill's stuff right now, really great. So I think that people really got to move away from that stigma, believing that, hey, well,
Mhm.
that just means you're not good enough if you're self-publishing. There's a
Right.
lot of great stuff out there. There's so much support in that community.
Yeah.
Like most of my Twitter is just people supporting independent authors,
Mhm.
and I love that. And I try to help as much as I can. A lot of people will send me stuff, and I'm like, look, I never say never. I don't know when I can get to it, but it's not because of I'm not hesitant to. It's just, finding time to
Time.
do all that stuff because I
Yeah.
have a billion people that want me to read things for
Right.
them. And I do have a real job and I do have 2 kids and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's tough, but I'm really excited for that community. It seems like it really is taking off.
100%. I will tell you, the horror genre in self-publishing is like chef's kiss right now. There are
Oh, sure. Yeah.
so many great
Horror
books
is
out
just, it's one of those genres I always feel like it's like heavy metal music. People just never took it seriously as like a real thing.
there. Mhm.
And so, yeah, I think the independent voice for horror has got to be amazing, especially because editors be like, you can't write that. We can't release that. So you probably do have to go out on your own a little bit, I think, to get something that's actually scary.
Mhm. Yeah, it's been really, really wonderful reading that stuff. All right, we have another question. Jess asks, you said you went to business school. What kind of business did you want to own one day?
Oh no, I don't know that I ever want to own one. That sounds like a lot more work than I'd like to. Like I believe in working hard or whatever, but when it comes to me like having like other people's livelihoods in their hands, I don't know
Mhm.
if I can handle that pressure or anybody working for me. I don't really know. I mean, I have ambitions like everyone else, but no, I mean, don't have anything about like, nah, that's just too much risk. I work in risk analysis. So to me, it's like, no, it's just too much risk. I think that like go out on your own. I think really just doing something like this would be about it. If this ever got to a point where it was big enough or someone wanted me to come work, like I have this pipe dream of like I see all these people getting signed to Spotify to just do podcasting. I mean, sure, that'd be a dream to have a show where I just talk about books with other people on Spotify or something. And if that ever got something like that happened, for example, just
Mhm.
not exactly Spotify, but as an example, and I had like a staff working under me or something like that, that'd probably be about the only thing I would do. But that's not anything I'm pursuing. No. But
Yeah.
hey, if Spotify wants to give me a call, I'm available.
There you go. All right, we got unlimited reads. Mike, I'm curious, when you read Lonesome Dove, great book,
Uh-huh.
did you think a certain character beginning with J that his departure was a little harsh?
Yeah, let me tell you, Larry McMurtry's not here for your feelings. Let's put it that way. I think that I tell it like it's an amazing book, but it's going to bring you down.
Mm,
It's going to hit you in the feels a ton because 1880s America during westward expansion, it was a goal just to stay alive.
yeah.
And Larry doesn't discriminate men, women, children. He does not. I mean, because real life didn't discriminate during that time period. And
Mhm.
so was it harsh? Absolutely. Did it hurt right here, especially reading that, As a dad, absolutely. But there's things in that book that'll cut you deep. But there's things that'll make you feel amazing in that book too. And
Yeah.
it's awesome. You're reading it right now, aren't you?
I am. And that's not a spoiler because I'm only like 15 chapters in, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying all the characters
Oh
for
man,
sure.
it's so good. You'll love it.
Let's see. Gareth says it's great that a big booktuber is championing self-publishing. It's still a great debate.
Sure. I
Mhm.
wish I had time to read more of it, but I definitely wish people would stop, denigrating it for sure.
Yeah. Oh, Kieran's here from KD Books. He asks, what do you feel a review should do and what makes reviews for you, be that you make or watch, stand out?
This is, I wish I knew the silver bullet answer here is because when I make a video with spoilers, people are like, well, I can't watch it because you're talking about spoilers and I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
And when I make one without spoilers, like, well, you didn't really talk about anything, so it's tough trying to find a balance there. So the format I just came up with is like, look, these are things I liked. These are things that maybe I didn't necessarily like, but I think they might stick in your craw a little bit. They
Mhm.
might bother you a little bit, or if you're sensitive to certain topics, I'll
Yeah.
bring that up. And just why I think that you should read it. I think that's the best way to do it. And if it's something that's really, really big or something really, really interesting, or I got a lot more to say, then I'll do an actual spoiler talk for it. But I mean, with me, a standard non-spoiler review is just telling people, why did you enjoy reading this? What really stuck out to you, and
Mhm.
maybe what didn't really work for you. That's really my method.
Yeah. And it's a smart method for sure.
Mm.
All right. Alan says, "Big Lonesome Dove fan." Me, I think this your second reread, Alan? Alan's reading it along with this too.
That's one of those books that was like so good that I'm embarrassed it took me this long to read it. It was that
Yeah.
good. Yeah, so good.
Katie has another question. I would love to know if you feel the desire to be the first to read a book is somewhat detrimental, be that in enjoyment, in creating, and in audience interest.
No, I think with me, like for example, getting this, it's
Mhm.
awesome, but it's never like a thing where like, oh, I feel special now. No, it's nothing like that. That's a series I love. I've been waiting for that book for 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited. And I'm thankful that doing this has allowed me access to things like that. I
Mhm.
do sometimes not like reading review copies when it's something that I want to talk about in the community because I'm like, I want to read it along with my buddies.
Mhm.
I do I feel like that a couple times. But there are instances where it's like, look, I'm thankful and blessed that I've reached this point where I can get allowed access to do things like that. But I definitely don't think like it takes away from anything. And honestly, a lot of times it's hard. Like I got to read Battleground by Jim Butcher, a Dresden Files book, and there
Mhm.
was a major event in there, and I couldn't talk about it for 6 months, and it killed me.
Wow.
So it can sometimes be a struggle, but no,
Yeah.
it's something that I absolutely don't take for granted. I think it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I would agree. Let's see. Jess says, "What sticks out with you the most about Stephen King's writing?"
He's just the best character writer of all time. He can take a book and have 50 characters in it, and you never have a problem with being like, "Wait, who was that? Who is this? I don't remember saying that name." You know who every single one of them are. You know who all their quirks are. You
Mhm.
know what they all think. You all know what happened to them in traumatic in their childhood. It's amazing that he's able to do that. He's able to make you care about characters that a lot of times you look at and be like, not the most likable person because he writes a lot of damaged characters. And I think
Mhm.
that's what makes them feel real is they make real people mistakes. They have real people problems. And he does that in Slice of Life just better than anyone ever. You see a lot of people be like, I was reading this book and like nothing happened for like 400 pages. He
Mhm.
does that, but you're riveted. You can't look away. You just want more. You just want to spend time with his characters because he's the best in the game when it comes to writing characters for sure. So everybody talks about oh, it's scary or this stuff's just too weird for me. His characters are always great, even in the weirdest book.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, because I'm just at 51 years old getting into reading Stephen King.
Mhm.
Like, I'm coming to the table late.
Never too
So,
late.
if there were 3 books that you would recommend for me to read, which 3 would they be?
It 11/22/63 and The Stand. I think
Okay.
because they're chonkers, they're huge, but it gives a great example of those things I just talked about. Amazing character work, large cast, but awesome coming of age stuff and slice of life and all those books. And The Stand, I think that kind of took on a new life during lockdown because people feared, that's what was. And it wasn't the same, guys, because in The Stand, like the virus killed 99.6% of the population,
Mhm.
so it wasn't the same. Even Stephen King himself was like, it's not the same, guys, calm down, but it's one of those, I think it took on a new life during that because people were like, that's an interesting premise. I'm going to read it during lockdown for full effect,
Yeah.
So I always recommend that. I think fantasy fans will actually find something like about that because it is very much like a modernized Lord of the Rings kind of journey in that
Mhm.
book. It has 7 coming of age stories in it, which is just, I'm a sucker for.
Yeah.
And then what's great about it is I read it when I was a teenager and I love the kid portion. And I read it as an adult and I love the kids and the adult portion. And that's what makes it such a great read later in life. And then 11/22/63 is just Stephen King being like, you know what? I'm going to write a romance novel. And it's like, what are you doing? Oh, wow. Yeah. I actually have tear stains on the page from the last chapter of that book. It was so amazing.
That's
So I always
awesome.
recommend those 3 to people who are
Okay.
just getting into it, and length doesn't scare you off.
Yeah. Okay. Good, good, good. Let's see. We have a question from Gareth. Mike, what do you think of the Rivers of London books? I don't think I've seen you talk about them.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the Rivers of London books. Let me know who the author is. I can look it up. I'm not familiar with that at all. It's the first I've heard of it. If you've commented that before, I'm sorry, I don't recall.
Alan says Hearts in Atlantis is a
Yeah.
favorite of mine.
Yeah,
Dreamcatcher.
lots of Dark Tower connections in there. Yeah.
Mike, you just suggested 3 massive
Good
books.
book.
Haha. I love 11.
Yeah, so I tell people it's like, look, I mean, because obviously I think the question I get the most on the channel is where should I start with Stephen King? And I've made that video twice on the channel, and I still get that question a lot. It really just depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for scary books, I'll recommend some. If you're looking just to say, look, show me an example of him being a great, great writer, I'll go with that. If you're not scared of big books, this is what I'll tell you. If you're looking for coming of age, so it really just, there's something there for everyone. So it just kind of, you need to tell me what exactly it is you're looking for, and I can find a match for you, I think.
Yeah, I actually lied. I do have his On Writing book.
Yeah.
So I did read one Stephen King. But I was at a library sale yesterday, and that Grady Hendrix, Paperbacks from Hell, is guiding a chapter in my BookTube right now. So I picked up a first edition of Cujo paperback that was $1, a first edition of Salem's Lot.
Great book.
And
Yeah.
there's one more in there. I can't. Oh, and Carrie. Yeah.
Great.
So
I'd say Salem's Lot might be his scariest book. No joke. It really
good.
is.
Okay. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. Let's see. YP, different seasons is great for first timers.
Absolutely. That's when I recommend it. Like I said, if you don't want to commit to something long, you don't want to commit to something super, super scary, different seasons will show you 4 great stories. 3 of them have been made movies, so I feel like people will be familiar with Shawshank Redemption, The Body Was Stand By Me, the movie, and Apt Pupil. But I think it really shows how great of a prose he really does have. And none of them I feel like are scary. I feel like that's very accessible for a lot of people.
Good. Unlimited Read says, I'm biased. Read The Shining, my personal favorite book of all time.
Yeah, Room 217 is still the scariest chapter I've ever read by Stephen King at both ages, as a teenager and a couple years ago.
Alan says, King is to the Beatles as Kuntz is to the Rolling Stones. That's a nice analogy.
Yeah, I feel like it's become like a joke with Stephen King and Dean Koontz fans, like dunk on each other. I've never read a Dean Koontz joke, but I'll make the jokes. Or I'm sorry, a book, but I'll make the jokes just like everyone else. It's just kind of a punchline at this point.
Let's see. Fair enough. Ben Aronovich, urban fantasy set in Britain, wizard, detective, etc.
Okay, that sounds a lot like the Alex Veris that gets recommended to me a lot. Yeah, urban fantasy is something I'm really, really new in. Like, if someone had sold me urban fantasy as like, hey, you liked Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Yeah, it's my favorite TV show ever, of course. And I'm like, yeah, that's urban fantasy. I think I probably would have got into that a lot quicker than I did. So when I started reading Dresden Fans, like, wow, this is like a Constantine in the Buffy universe. This is great. I love this. So yeah, I definitely want to get more into urban fantasy going forward.
Nice. Gareth says Cujo and Salem's Lot are amazing. Madison says if you want medium-sized books, go Pet Sematary, Different Seasons, and Salem's Lot.
Yeah, when I first got Madison into reading Stephen King, she started with Different Seasons, if I recall correctly, and then she. It's so funny because she says, I needed a break from huge epic fantasy books, and so she reads It in The Stand. I like it, but I think it's hooked her to a point where she's with me now, is thinking that he's one of the best ever. It's one of her, and I think she's reading. God, you just finished Evil Things. I think she's going to be reading Gerald's Game here very soon. I'm excited to hear her thoughts on that. Yeah.
What are your least favorite King books?
The Tommyknockers. Gosh, that's There's several. I mean, you can go back and watch some of the reviews where I've kind of dunked on the Regulators. I did not like the Regulators at all. Uh, everybody dunks on the Dreamcatcher, but I think when Dreamcatcher came out, it was right after his accident where we thought he had died.
Yeah.
It was like the first book that we had got after his accident, where we never thought we were getting another Stephen King book. So that might have blinded me a little bit. But I'm thinking about it in hindsight, and I can't remember anything about it. So there's that. But I don't know. There are some, and people say, "Oh, you love everything Stephen King puts out." Watch my Into the Multiverse videos, guys. I rail on a lot of those books, and yeah, Tommyknockers was a big one.
Okay. Yeah, William said, I guess you're no fan of Tommyknockers.
I think Tommyknockers has some great ideas. I just think that he should have got off the cocaine just a little bit when he was writing that one. There's a reason that's the book that caused an intervention with his wife.
Okay. Alan says, King's worst novel, in my honest opinion. Jess asks, are your wife and children huge readers?
Kids, not so much. The youngest is autistic, so he's not reading a ton yet. He's starting to read, really well, but he's not like reading books on his own really at this point. He was really excited. He loves this Five Nights at Freddy's thing, which I'm not really exactly sure what it is. Looks like evil Chuck E. Cheese's. But we got him a book for that for his birthday, and he can't put it down. He's just looking at it like crazy. So he's getting there. My oldest actually has become a fan of me reading to him.
Nice.
Because of my audiobook performance, I guess. We started with Harry Potter, and now we're running through Percy Jackson. And, I've spoiled him where he expects me to do a different voice for every character. I can't recycle any of the voices I used in Harry Potter. I'm like, well, I'm not Robin Williams. I don't have 1,000 voices. I got about a dozen here. You're going to have some recycled voices. But I think he's going to be an audiobooker in the future because of this. But the kids have tablets and Netflix and video games. They're not looking for books like, mine and your generation were.
Yeah.
I think.
Let's see. Daniel says, hey, huge horror books aren't the same as huge epic fantasy books, so it still works.
I think so. Like I talk about a Stephen King book will have a lot of characters, but I was like, every epic fantasy book that's like 700-800 pages, you got like a dozen new lands to learn about. You got at least 3 or 4 dozen new characters, and then you got to learn their family trees. You got to learn about which family screwed over which in the past. So it's a lot of work. Whereas a horror novel usually got less than 5 characters. You got one setting. It's pretty easy to follow. That's why I say it is quite different.
From a Buick 8 is terrible.
That's another one of those I don't really recall a lot about. So I'm thinking if you forget about it 5 minutes after you read it.
Let's see. YP. I don't like dark half. People seem to love it a lot. I
was pretty mixed on it. I love Sheriff Pangborn, so I think that really helped a lot. It has some messed up stuff, but you could tell that was his first book after he got sober, and he was kind of writing through a lot of his demons. Basically, the dark half being Richard Bachman / his alcoholicism. I think he's really kind of, and he does that a lot. He gets to writing some of his demons out through his books. That's why all his characters are always authors. But I could see why Dark Half doesn't work for everybody. Sure.
Yeah. Garrett says later in Joyland were great new books from him, I think.
I'll admit I haven't. If Madison's still here, she's going to get mad about this. I still haven't read Joyland. I didn't read everything. And here's the thing: is everybody, I would have assumed you've read everything by Stephen King. I was so mad when Dark Tower 7 came out about what happened in that book that like I broke up with Stephen King, and I didn't read him for like 7 years. No joke. So I missed a lot during that span. Yeah. And Joyland is just one of those I really just missed. It was like Stephen King wasn't appointment reading for me anymore until I read 11/22/63, and I loved it so much. I was like, okay, my boy's back. I'll forgive him for what he did to my characters in Dark Tower. But I think that Later was a big surprise because he had 2 books coming out there. He had Later and Billy Summers. And I was really excited for Billy Summers. And I was like, well, Later can be a nice holdover. And holy hell, it was maybe the best ghost story he's ever written. It was that good. And I was like, there is no reason that this man, almost 80 years old, so has his fastball like that. It was that good. And then Billy Summers came out, and it was just okay for me. So it's weird how that works sometimes. But yeah, Later's amazing, guys. It's like 240 pages. You'll blow right through it.
Nice. All right, this is Matthew. Matthew has a question. Hey, Mike, I have a question, but I want to start with thanking you as you inspired me to start my channel. My question, how good are you at keeping expectations in line when reading?
I think one thing that I said when I went into this, and thank you, by the way, and good luck with your channel. I think that's awesome. I think that you can't make this a job. For me, I said it was never going to be something that I made a job. That's why I have almost 100,000 subs now. Still haven't taken a sponsor, because I'm not going to sling SurfNet or VPN or, this water bottle. That's just not me. I just want to be able to have that feeling of I'm at the coffee shop having a drink with you, talking about books. That was kind of the approach I wanted to go for. So I never wanted to make this a job because I never wanted to feel like I had to be reading something I didn't want to read. I had to be talking about something I didn't want to talk about. I am really big about listening to my audience. If it's something you guys want me to do, I'll do it. And I'll read it and I'll talk about it. Or if you're not really digging that, okay, I won't talk about that anymore. But with me, it's always like, look, reading's fun for me. And I'm never going to be like, oh my God, if I don't read 1,200 pages this month, I'm failing. I never look at it like that. I mean, I have months like everybody else where I'll do 7 or 8 books. And I have months where I'm lucky to get through 3. It just happens. That's everybody. I mean, you probably get this. How many pages would you say you read a day? Man, I got kids. I got job. I don't know. It doesn't work that way. Right. Some days I'll read 300 pages. Some day I'll read 3. So always, sure, it's fun to make a schedule and a plan and things like that. I work in finance. I plan everything out. I've got my TBR plan for the next year. I just don't tell anybody what it is.
I'm a mood reader, so no TBR here.
Right. So if you are the mood reader, that's amazing. I think that everybody should kind of move into that. Read what makes you happy. And like a lot of people all the time, I'm just not really enjoying this book. Put it down, man. Don't feel bad about it. Read what makes you happy. So keep expectations in line by just saying, I'm going to read what I want when I want.
Do you have any patterns to your reading? Like I make sure that I wake up early and I get at least a solid hour in before the bells and whistles go off for my day.
The only time I can really count on being a constant because I can control it is my lunch hour at work. I take my Kindle with me, or I'll be taking this big beast with me to work and reading it for that hour every day. Because that's the only time I can get an hour of reading time uninterrupted. I make sure I put the phone in my desk. I don't close my door, don't come in. I'm on lunch break. And people know at my office, do not disturb me while I'm on my lunch break, because that's what I'm doing. And, some people are like, oh, Mike's in there reading his book again. There's a lot of people still think it's weird that people like to read, I guess. Hey, what is that? What is it? It seems like that's mostly a thing in the States. People just think it's weird. Like, what are you reading for? Not what are you reading, but what are you reading for? And I'm like, really? What am I reading for?
Right. That's
the craziest question I've ever got. But that's the only time I have a controlled thing. I love to read before I go to bed, but some nights I'll go to bed and I'll read a sentence and it's falling on my face.
Completely get that. Let's catch up with some comments. William, I've read Rose Matter, surreal but good.
Yeah. His stretch during the 90s was divisive for some people because he was basically getting away from the monsters and writing about like real world problems like spousal abuse.
Anthony says, Buick 8 would be my least favorite.
It's one of those I'll be curious to see how I feel in the reread here eventually.
Alan says the author photo of King on Dreamcatchers. He is lit on painkillers.
Oh yeah, he actually wrote that book shorthand.
Yeah,
he did because he couldn't get out of his bed. He was so injured.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Alan said, same YP. I had troubles with Dark Half. Talking YP. Limited reads. Rose Matter is out there definitely.
No doubt.
Dark Half, another King book with writers as characters. I liked it.
Yeah. If it's main character's an author, it usually clicks for me.
Yeah. Garrett says, Mike, I love seeing your collection of mugs in your videos too. How many mugs do you have?
Thank you. It's a kind of a fun joke. I made a video because people asked for it. I was like, I didn't think there's anything people wanted to see, but of just showing all my coffee mugs. I used to collect beer glasses because I was a big beer drinker, did keto. And once you lose that much weight, your alcohol tolerance goes out the window. Like 1 or 2 beers would get me sick. And so I just stopped drinking. And my wife was like, good, because I was going to tell you no more beer glasses. You don't have room for them. I was like, challenge accepted. So I started buying coffee mugs because obviously you look to replace that because it really is just like a tick at that point. You're always wanting to sip on something.
Right.
And I was like, I drink a ton of coffee. Why not get coffee mugs? So I started doing that. It became like a branding thing on the channel because I was like, I was kind of going for that idea of just like hanging out at the coffee shop talking about books. And it just became one of those things where people started sending me coffee mugs and stuff. And I was like, I'm just going to, for example, when I first started, whenever I take a sip of my coffee, I'd always edit it out because I was like, nobody wants to see that. And then a couple times I just left it in and it had such crazy reactions. People either being like, oh my God, no one wants to see you drink, to being like, that's hilarious. Or it feels more real. Like we're hanging out or something like that. And it just became
we're hanging out, drinking coffee.
So it's never something I'm like, hey, this is me and my coffee mug. It just kind of became like, this is what I do while I read. I drink coffee. That's what I do when I just hang around and talk to somebody, is just drinking coffee or tea or something like that. So yeah, I love a good coffee mug, but my wife isn't a fan.
My husband doesn't drink coffee at all.
My
Um,
wife doesn't drink coffee. She loves the smell of it, but she does not drink coffee. And I'm
oh,
like, good. I don't need you, using the last of the coffee and not
there
telling
you
me.
go. I don't think I've read any bad King yet. His short stories are scarier than his novels, though. Let's see. Madison Joyland was a
Yeah.
nice
Yeah.
little nugget.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Gloria
He's been
said,
railing
"Hi."
on me to read that one.
Gloria said, or Gola says, "Hi, Mike. I found you from your Why Read Conan. Do you have a favorite book or short story?"
Oh man, gosh. I mean, Tower of the Elephant's hard to beat, but I mean, gosh, I don't think there's a bad Conan story. The Frost Giant's daughter was probably like my introduction to that character. I think Conan, people get this idea that Conan is just like a meathead, a brute, and you see that when you read his stuff, you see it's really not like that. He's very calculating. He's very, very smart. Yeah, sure, he'll cave your head in. It's not a big deal. But Robert E. Howard just so much ahead of his time, and I don't feel like he gets enough respect. Like you realize this guy was building a fantasy world before Tolkien. I mean, he was doing this way before Tolkien even. And him and H.P. Lovecraft are pen pals. Like, God, please check out some Robert E. Howard, guys. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
And all his stories are like 15, 20 pages. So it's not a huge commitment.
Yeah. Philip Chase, as a Stephen King newbie, I love Dark Tower, especially books 6 and 7.
You know how I said I broke up with Stephen King? I almost broke up with you, Philip, when you said Song of Susanna was your favorite Dark Tower book. It gets very, very divisive towards the end of that series. It really does. I feel like a lot of new readers that have come on to Dark Tower and binge read it hasn't bothered them as much as us waiters did, as people who waited years to get to that point and got some of those books. So I said I would feel like I want to know if the pain subsided a little bit on this reread, but here I am waiting to reread book 6 and 7, and I've been putting it off as long as possible because I don't want to get mad at Stephen again.
Unlimited Read says, yeah, Philip, the end is very divisive.
Yeah.
Jess asks, what other genres do you like to read?
I said just fantasy, sci-fi, horror mostly for me. I do like the techno thriller. Michael Crichton is my second favorite author of all time. I love that he presents these real world ideas or these technology that's just right there that we could probably get to. It could be you could see it being a reality, but it's one of those, he always asks that moral question of, should we be messing with that though? Like for example, Jurassic Park, sure, we could probably do that, but natural selection selected the dinosaurs for extinction. Should we be playing God? He always asks good questions like that. And I think I found that successor in Blake Crouch. Blake Crouch will ask a lot of questions like that and make you wonder, hey, maybe we should not be doing this. Sure.
Right. Read by Fred. Totally agree. BookTube shouldn't be a job. It should be a fun hobby. Read what makes you happy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I will have something where I'll like, I committed to doing this, so I'm going to do it. So I'm guilty of that as much as everyone. But I mean, you see people get mad. Oh, you started this read along and you bailed on it. Look, if I'm not happy, I'm not going to do it. That's why I say I'm going to cut back on the read alongs because I don't want to disappoint anybody in that way.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to be able to look, I'm old. I'm never going to be able to read all this stuff I want to read before I go. So that's why I even said, like, I start cutting down the rereads, besides Stephen King, because I'm doing that as a series and I haven't read a lot of those since I was a teenager. Besides that, I got to cut out the rereads for sure.
Yeah. Unlimited Reads. We only get half-hour lunch breaks in the industry I work in. Not fair. LOL. Read by Fred. Hi, leave my coffee mug sip to the end of my videos. Love coffee. Yeah, that's his trademark.
I talk really fast, and that gets you parched. You're thirsty.
That's right. That's right. People are saying hello. As if Philip could ever get done.
I know, with his square jaw and his nice hair. Gosh.
William says Crichton Timeline is on my wish list.
Man, I read Timeline when I was in high school. Completely changed the way I look at time travel in my books forever after, because the way that he did it, it made it seem like, wow, this is something that's feasible. Yeah.
Nice. Alan says, agreed. Love the Dark Tower series. Anthony, hey, Mike, with some Cornwell and McMurtry under your belt, have you been eyeing any other historical fiction, or is that a genre that's case by case for you?
I think I made the mistake of reading Ken Follett, that's Pillars of the Earth, and Bernard Cornwell first, because those apparently are like the two best at it. Because I've tried to read some historical fiction after them, and I'm like, I'm just longing to read more Cornwell now. So I don't know that necessarily I ever would say never on these things, but I think when I go back to historical fiction, I'm going to go to Grail Quest, or I'm going to go to Last Kingdom, Saxon Stories, the Uhtred books by Cornwell, because He's just so good at it. I'd love to read Pillars of the Earth again. I haven't read Pillars of the Earth since high school. I just said I got to cut out the rereads.
No, cut out rereads.
But everyone on my Discord talking about reading Pillars of the Earth and how amazing it is. And I'm like, I know. But yeah, I think I'm just going to stick really with Cornwell for now. But again, I never say never.
Nice. Matthew asks, outside of Jurassic Park, what are some of your favorite Crichton novels?
Timeline's amazing. Sphere is just so thought-provoking. Like, you won't be able to sleep for like a week after you finish that, thinking about the ending. It's one of those that's still debated today. The ending to that book is so good. The Andromeda Strain is the first sci-fi novel I ever read, so it'll always be special. Congo is really a lot of fun. I think that's probably like the closest he comes to like a straight adventure book. If you want to get away from the science, you just want like a fun heist story. The Great Train Robberies, a ton of fun. Really, but to me, Crichton didn't ever have a bad book. Even if I felt like it was not up to par for him, it was still like I had a good time reading it. And you can read his books in like a couple of days. They're just so good.
Nice. Yeah. Philip is cheersing with Madison. Zach asks, have you heard of James Rollins? He reminds me of what I imagine Michael Crichton books are like, science-y action thriller.
Someone asked me the other day of, I mentioned I did a video on why you should read Blake Crouch, and I made the comparison to Michael Crichton, saying that a lot of people compared authors to Michael Crichton for me in the past. It didn't really work. Tom Clancy was kind of a miss for me. As far as in comparison to Crichton, good books, just not, it wasn't like Crichton to me. But one of the James Rollins ones, I think it was his Sigma Force books, is someone kind of recommended that. I was like, I never really felt like Crichton ever did the special teams kind of books. And also I learned later that I read it out of order. I think I read like book 4 in the series. So I never really went back. But yeah, I have gotten that comparison in the past for sure.
Okay, let's see. Timeline is so good. Unlimited reads. Historical fiction. I'm going to try Shogun this year.
That's one of my intimidation ones. Is I got that beautiful leather hardbound. And it's just like, I hear people who love to read big chunk of books like that being like, yeah, I read it slowly over like 6 months. Yeah. So I really have to be in the mood for that one.
Matthew says, Sigma Force series is great. Madison says she needs to read Pillars.
Oh, look, well, Madison, I love it when you read what I'm reading because we get to talk about it like immediately. And I love that. But yeah, that's a TBR breaker. You should forget about reading Soldier's Son and read that instead. No doubt.
Peter the Book Lover says, I just finished Slaughterhouse 5. That is a great time.
That's a classic, man. Yeah, terrific.
Currently, buddy, reading A Column of Fire halfway through. Talking Story. If you want more historical fiction, give Matthew Corbett's series a shot.
I am doing Speaks Nightbird this fall.
Let's see. Gareth asks, Mike, have you read or been curious about the Faffet and Gray Mouser books?
I cannot say that I have. I'm not really sure what they are.
William, I will definitely skip State of Fear.
That one's kind of controversial because it's his opinions on climate change.
Gola asks, what's your favorite horror novel outside of Stephen King?
Colorado Space by H.P. Lovecraft. So good. It's been copied so much. It's been parodied to death. It's great. It's great.
Nice. Anthony says Corbett is good not just for historical fiction, but also injects some horror.
I'm still not sure what the genre is because on the front of them they look like swashbuckling pirate books. And, people wearing tricorn hats, and I see pirate ships and knives and stuff. People say, but they're not pirate books. I'm like, well, then the cover artist messed up.
Yeah, false advertising. All right, we are all caught up. Everyone, if there's any other questions you'd like to ask Mike, now is the time because we'll be wrapping up in a couple minutes.
Yeah, because my wife's like wanting me to come downstairs and play Diablo with her. So yeah.
Can I just tell you, when you posted about Diablo, all right, so before I got married, Diablo was the only video game I played. 1, 2, 3, and now 4 is out. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know.
Because it'll take over your life, or?
Well, because my husband does not do video games at all.
Okay.
And when we got married, I kind of had to swear off because I was one of those people. I would stay up all night playing with my brother and our friend on the West Coast. And then I wouldn't sleep and I'd go to work the next morning and we would just do these epic rampages. It was just, it was phenomenal. And then when I saw that they came out with 4, I was like, oh,
yeah.
No, what do I do?
Yeah, I actually tried playing 3 on my PC when I first got a game PC, and I was like, it's fine. It's cool. It's fun hack and slash.
Yeah.
And then I bought a PS4 and they had like Diablo 3 Ultimate Edition or something. And we were looking for 2-player games. We got that, and me and my wife just, oh my God, we ate it up. So it was like, it's so much fun to play with someone else.
Right.
It's so much fun. And so when this one was coming out, I was like, well, we're getting that day one. Like we're all big Zelda fans in the house, and we're trying to play that new Zelda game right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, and Diablo comes out like 3 weeks later. Like, this isn't even fair. And so,
Mm-mm.
my oldest is complaining. He wants to take the Switch back to his bedroom now because we're hogging the TV to play Diablo. It's like, hey, I bought you a Switch because you can take it off the base and go play it. Go play it. I don't want to hear you crying anymore.
Yeah. I think I love Diablo just because of the shopping aspect. You can get your
Yes.
armor, you can get everything, you can get matching sets. There's different attributes to it.
Yeah, it was like we're not even on level 10 yet. And I was like, we spent an hour last night just like customizing my armor. We're like, oh my god, it's gonna be such a time sink. Yeah,
It's
so
still,
good.
and even to go back to Diablo 1, it's still just a good game.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, it's just a
I
good
would
game.
tell you it's a great RPG starter if you haven't played a lot of RPGs, because
Yeah.
if you don't want to get really complex with it, hey, it'll
Mhm.
tell you which armor's your strongest. Just equip the strongest. Boom, you're ready to go. Press a
That's
button to
it.
just smash everything.
That's it. Anthony Lehman, yeah, there's no pirates in there.
Yeah.
Christopher Evenstar asks, have you ever tried reading books at your kid's grade level? If so, does that help relate at all?
That was the whole reason I wanted to do Percy Jackson, because a lot of my viewers that were the generation after me, or I guess that generation after me, they were the generation after Harry Potter,
Mhm.
and they loved Percy Jackson as much as everybody else loved Harry Potter. So I said that was something I thought that I would like to read. If when my kid got old enough to read them, I would read those with him. And then he got really into Greek mythology, like huge into Greek mythology. I mean, he was writing like book reports and stuff for school on it. He's watching YouTube videos on Greek mythology. So I'm like, okay, this is great. Perfect timing. And it's still the point where he prefers that I read out loud to him. It's bonding time. It's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I don't mind doing it. And so I'd always meant to do that. So we're kind of doing it that way. But yeah, I'm it's one of the things is Percy Jackson books. I thought at this age, I thought I was just be face palming the whole time. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I got to struggle. I'm having a great time with them. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just don't take them seriously and realize they are for junior high level. Sometimes, guys, that's great. That'll clear the cache upstairs if you just read
Mhm.
something that light. It's a lot of fun. But I
Definitely.
love like Chronicles of Narnia, which is that age range too.
Yeah. Alan says, I remember Diablo.
It's the
Zach,
whole thing. Yeah.
yeah, Zach says, I personally haven't read a lot of the Sigma Force by Rollins, but his standalone are nice. Thanks for the Crouch Crichton spotlight. I enjoy books that get sciencey.
Yeah, those are the guys right there.
Erie says, if you disappear from YouTube, no Diablo 1.
I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often, honestly. Like I said, I do those mantras, and one of those is be consistent. And I say, if I'm going to tell my people that I'm going to make this many videos, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
They may not always be the best of quality, but I try.
Yeah. Let me ask, do you ever batch film or do you just do one at a time?
I know I'm going to get busy during the weekdays, so I
Mhm.
will usually do all my recording on the weekend and just worry about slowly editing it during the week and releasing it. Yeah. Mhm.
What's your
But
favorite?
I let my patrons watch it early though.
That's nice.
Because they're special. Yeah.
That's right. What's your favorite part of what's the worst favorite part of creating? Thumbnail, title, or editing?
Editing. I make my thumbnails really quick. People think I spend like a lot of time on my thumbnails. Like it's mostly done on an app, guys. It's really not that you really just drag your finger around and replace the background. It's really not hard. But titles, that was something I have made tweaks with on the channel. I used to always just be like book title, book author, and the word review.
Mm.
And then I started being like, you know what? Write it like you would write a 1-sentence blurb is how I started writing my titles. Or I do my weekly updates and I do like a Friends theme where it's like the one with blank. Yeah. Because I think it's fun. It makes people interested in what you were going to talk about besides just what you read that week.
Right.
But no, it's editing just because there's no way to rush it. You really can't just go through. And I think it's because every word that you say when your platform gets bigger is going to be microanalyzed. There's a lot of people out there who are looking to get you in trouble. So you have to make sure, did I say anything that's going to really upset somebody? That's why I don't really think that I do, but I also sometimes have to take a step back. I think this is a big thing with Gen Xers. We have to take a step back and be like, current generations think a little differently than we did. I got to make sure that I didn't say something that's going to make me go viral on Twitter and the world's going to hate me.
Right.
So there's no quick way to edit. And with me, I'm a perfectionist at heart. And even if I can't get my audio video perfect, I'm going to damn well make sure that I try to make sure my video is not lazily edited. Like when my computer broke and people were like, well, just record one from your phone. I was like, no way, I can't do that.
Unlimited reads. I'm off because it's nearly 1 a.m. here in Oz. But Mike, I just wanted to thank you so much for your awesome channel. You inspired me to do my own channel also.
Thank you. I never get tired of hearing that. I love it. Thank you. Thank you.
Zach says, thanks for the Saturday coffee chat. Have a blessed day, Mike and MJ and audience.
You do the same. I'm on cup number 2 right now. Yeah.
Same. Heidi says, Mike, have you considered reading Puritan Chronicles with your son?
No, I bet he's so in on Percy Jackson. Madison sold me real hard on these Nicholas Flamel. God, what was it called? I forget, by Michael Scott. Anyway, she sold me in another series that I was considering doing with him.
Mm-hmm.
And after we finished Percy Jackson, as you know, Rick Riordan has like 30 books in that series.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to keep going with that because he's still all in on the Greek mythology. But he's been choosing to stay up late and play video games instead of rigs. I make him choose each night. We reading, or you're going to stay up another 30 minutes and play Zelda. He's going to choose Zelda every time.
Yeah.
So we're kind of at a holding pattern right now. But I think by the time we get to more series, he'll be at the age where he needs to be reading them on his own.
Mm-hmm. See, played the hell out of D2. Never played D3. Playing D4 with a friend and girlfriend, having a blast.
You gotta be careful, man. It'll take over your life. I remember when World of Warcraft first broke out and people were playing. I was like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
I remember what it was like. My first apartment had with like 3 other dudes, and it's good. We all paid our bills and stuff. It was great. And then EverQuest came out, and one of my roommates got addicted to that so much that he quit his job to stay home and play, and had to move out because he couldn't pay his rent anymore. And I was like, I am not getting into this online gameplay stuff. So I've always stayed away from that.
Let's see. I'm going to read some middle grade after my current read to clear the cache. Yeah. Good idea.
Does it.
People are saying hello. Philip Chase. Puritan was my first fantasy series. Loved it. Talking story. I made my kid edit and put green screen text.
That's another thing with me, though, is like I'm always going to be simple. I'm never going to do the skits. I'm always going to do fixed camera angle. I'm not going to do all the funny stuff, all the interludes, all the green screen stuff. If people can do that, that's great. I don't have time to do all that stuff. No way.
Yeah, you do what works for you. Yeah. Madison says the secrets of immortal Nicholas Flame.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Christopher says, "Oh yeah," to Philip and Heidi. Garrett says, "I'm obsessed with Skyrim."
I probably put in 700 hours in 3 different builds of Skyrim on 3 different platforms. Yeah, it's great.
Gola asks, "Do you read any books based on video games?"
I think I read like the first Halo book when it came out, Fall of Reach, I think it was called. I can't remember. That might be about it. No, I do anything like that, like even kind of similar. Maybe some comics, but never like actual like prose books. No.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that's all the questions that we have. So we've been talking for an hour. I guess we'll wrap it up. So again, Mike, thanks so much for hanging out with us. This has been fun. It's been awesome getting to know you. Thanks for going through all the questions and taking questions from the audience.
Sure. No, my pleasure. I have no problems talking. I'm sure people figured that out at this point.
Oh, there's Dave. Hi, Dave. Let's see. There's one more. I read BioShock prequel novel. It was pretty good. Boy, I remember BioShock.
Yeah, that was very, very Ayn Randy. Yeah.
Princess is one of my favorite characters ever. Dreams of the Ying is the only video. Philip says, "Thank you for the lovely chat, both of you." Thank you so much, Philip. I appreciate that. Thanks for the show. Fun chat. All right. So I hope you have a great day.
You too.
Don't play too many video games. Enjoy reading your book.
Thank you for asking for me to come on. It was a great time.
You're welcome. And to everyone that couldn't make it in the live and you're watching on the replay, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure that you check out Mike's channel. I will list it down below in the event you aren't subscribed or you don't know his channel. It's fantastic. Take it from me.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, everyone. Okay, everyone, that's it here from us. I hope you are all doing well. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself so you can take care of others. And I will see you in my next video, whether that be sooner or later. So until next time, goodbye for now.